Welcome back, my friends. We are almost at an end. We've got our UI looking the way we like it. And what we're going to do is start adding some programming. First thing I want to do is deal with these icons and treat them like programmable buttons, shall we say. I'd like it if we hover over these to have a little hover effect, maybe not have the border until we're hovering over it. And then if we click it, I would like to be able to change the main avatar. We'll start with all the default avatars, and then in the next tutorial, we'll deal with actually making API calls and doing all that. So we'll just start with the icon widgets. The first thing we want to do is sort of understand this concept of signals and slots. And to do this, I want to just point you towards the Python GUI's website. It's a very handy website, helped me out a lot. There is a whole article on signals, slots, and events. And if you just scroll down here, the way to think about it is a signal is something a widget emits when something happens. A button is clicked, you hover over with your mouse over an icon, which is we're going to do the mouse hover in our case today. In order to do that, because we have a generic icon and it doesn't have anything sort of built in, we have to add it. And then the other thing about slots, those are actually what receives the signals, so that when you hover, click, you do some action, what happens when that occurs? It's dealing with it. So that's what we're going to work on today. First thing we need to do is we're going to go ahead and go down to the icon widget, and we need to set it up to be able to emit signals. And in order to do that, we're going to do another import statement, and we're going to add the idea of the PyQt signal and Q event as well. So we're going to put on here Q event. We're going to use this probably not until the next video, but we'll see. And PyQt signal, there it is. Save your changes. Great. Let's move down, skip past the main window. We're going to go straight here. We're going to give it a class attribute, also known as a static attribute. And on here, we're going to type selected. We're going to say it's selected. It's going to be a PyQt signal. And the type of signal it's going to emit is a string. So we'll be able to send out a string. And eventually, what that's going to do is it's going to let it know. Well, let's look at the app. I'll just want to show you this. All right. So we don't know. Like when we click on one of these, we need to tell the whole app what we just clicked on. And that's the signal we're going to emit. Before we do that, though, I'm going to go ahead and close this. We need to deal with some mouse events. And so we're going to do it right after we set the scene. And it's self.setMouseTracking. And we're going to set that to true. This will now enable us to deal with what happens when the mouse is hovered, and there's an enter and then a leave event. So that's what the hover is happening. Enter means we've just entered its space. The mouse is now over that. Exit means when we go off. And if we look at our app, I've got to run it again. If you look at the app, you can see, all right, right now there's all borders around it. I think we should remove the borders and then make it so that when we enter, we create the border, and when we leave, we remove the border. That's how I'm going to do it. And then, if you want to do something else, that's up to you. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and close this. I think the first thing we need to do is check our style sheet. So in our resources folder, we have a style sheet. I'm going to go in here, and this icon widget of a border color, I think is going to cause problems. So I'm going to change the border color to background color. All right, so now it'll be background color. Just make sure this doesn't mess up our app in any particular way. It should look the same. Yeah, I think it's just not having a little border around something. I don't know. I think it looks good. I'm just going to go with this. Okay. Okay, so now we have, this is for later in a bit. We've got our mouse tracking set up. Let's do our mouse tracking. There's nothing else we need to do on here. Oh, wait, there is one thing I want to do. Let's run this. Do we have the borders when we run it? Yes, we do. We need to get rid of those borders. So we're going to set the style sheet. We're going to do that at the bottom of our icon widget. So you want to, it's part of the init. So when it's initialized or when it first appears. I'm going to put on here self.setStyleSheet. And we're just going to put in here border none. So that's going to be the default border state. Let's run it and see if that's working. Yep, no more borders. Maybe you don't like it. You could also change it to a border of a light gray if you wanted. So to do that, you could just do, and I don't know if border will work on here. Let's just try, if we're going to do a light gray, we'll try 6, and now we'll do 7, 7, 7. I don't want to jinx anything here. I'm going to save my changes and run it and see if it shows the border color. No. Okay, so I'd have to put border, I'd put 1 px solid like so, save my changes, run it again. There. Okay, so we can make it even more faint. So let's try BBB. Run it again. Faint, right? Okay, we can make it thicker. Let's try 2px. All right. Okay, so we're going to start with that, set style sheet, and now we're going to do the mouse enter and the mouse leave event. Now, if I start typing mouse, because I set mouse enabled to true, I've got all these. There's a double click event, and let's just look at it. We can even say whether something has mouse tracking or not under mouse. I think that's when you're holding the button down. You got the move event, the mouse press event, the mouse release event, etc. Okay, so we're going to do the mouse enter event. Mouse. Let me see if I can remember. Hold on a second. It's not mouse, it's actually enter event. I thought that was interesting that I couldn't find it. All right, when this pops open, if you have this, you can just get rid of that. For whatever reason, that was causing problems. And we're going to leave the return exactly as it is. And instead, we're going to do set style sheet. Self.setStyleSheet. Now we're going to do border none. Okay, so when we mouse off, when we mouse over, wait, we want to remove it? No, that's the leave event. What am I saying? Okay, I want to get that border. I'm just going to copy that whole thing. I'm going to save that for the other. And get rid of the extra quotation mark. Now I'm going to make it nice and dark. We'll try 1, 1, 1. So that's the enter event. So we're going to darken it. And let's make it 4 pixels. Let's just try it out. And then we can set it back to here. So I'm just going to copy this on the leave event. And get rid of that part here. Save everything else as is. Don't know what the A0 is all about. Not too concerned. All right, let's try it out. Oh yeah, look at that. Okay, so now we know which one we're hovering over. I like it. I like it. Now that the hover effect works, it's time to actually have these clickable. And when we click it, make sure we change the main avatar. In order to do this, we need to emit a signal when the mouse is pressed. Or it could be a mouse release, however you want to do it. I like the mouse release because I generally feel like sometimes you change your mind, and if you move your mouse off of the thing and let go, the release has to happen over it. I just like it. So we're just going to do that. And it's mouse release event. All right. And we just get rid of the none part here, just like we did before. And let's get back here. I was debugging for a moment. And undo. Mouse event. I just want to get rid of the none part here. All right. So it's a mouse event. All right. So what happens when we press the mouse? All right. So what we are going to do is we're going to emit a signal. So self.selected. So when it's selected, I'm going to put an emit. So the selected event is going to have the emit, which is going to be, let's just give it, I'm thinking the file path, because the file path, do we have a file path? Yeah, we have a file path. We have the path of the whole file. So we could use that to then generate the image and the main. Oh yeah, this is easy. All right, so let's do that. Emit, and it's self.filepath. That's it. All right, we're going to emit it. Now, we have to actually attach the event. we have to actually attach. So this is our slot signal. And we're gonna emit the signal of the file path when it is selected. There we go. So now we have to go into our widgets, and I think what we have to do is wait till, let's use the layout. The layout has a bunch of widgets in it. Let's loop through the layout. If it happens to be a icon widget, then we will connect that slot to it. Okay? So I'm gonna actually just go back here, and then we're gonna just add that right here. So we will add selected slots to the icon widget. In order to do that, we're going to do a little items equals. We're going to create basically a list of items. We're going to do it like a for loop. So we're going to put layout dot item at I, and then we're going to put for I in range layout dot count. So we're going to loop through that. And I'm going to move this over a little bit so you can see that a little better. Okay, that's our items. Now we're going to loop through it for I'm going to put W because it's a widget for widget in items, but we're not going to type out widget because that can be confusing. There already is a widget. We don't want to do that. That'll mess everything up. See, widget right below. There you go. All right, so each loop we're going to create we're going to get data about that widget. So I'm just going to put data equals, I could have come up with any name, I'm just for time's sake. So we're going to basically create that widget as its own object that we can now find out what kind of widget is it using isInstance. So we're going to check if it is instance, all right, and then we're going to put data in here. If the data is an icon widget, so we need the class name here. And then if it is, we're going to do that data.selected.connect, and then we're going to connect a function, which is basically what happens when we change the main SVG. Remember, it's going to get the file path, but we're going to call it, let's call it change main SVG. Self.change main SVG. We don't put parentheses around it when we do slots. Okay, but we do need that name. So I'm going to copy that here. Remember how we emitted that string? So that's what we're going to do. Change main SVG. Let's alphabetize our methods. I could also do it in the order in which they're called. That's another way to do it. All right, so we're going to put self in here. But the other thing is that when we change the main SVG, we're going to get its path because that's what we emitted down in the mouse release. Remember, we emit the file path. So this is going to give us the path when we call it. All right, so we're going to generate that change. So this is what happens. Path is a string, and it's going to return none. Right. Before we do that, though, let's see if we're getting the path. So we're just going to go ahead and print path. I'm going to put a breakpoint here, but I also want to put a breakpoint in here so you can see how this plays out. All right, so we're going to run all this in debug. This should work. We're going to find out in just a moment. Run and debug. All right, here we go. All right, data. Where's our data? Oh, let's move it down to here. And let's go down the next step. So there's data, and if we drag this over, we can see that it is a PyQt6 QT-widgets Q label. Okay, that's not what we want. So we loop again. The web engine, remember that's that big avatar. And then now we have a Q line edit. And now we have a Q push button. And now we have that main.IconWidget. So now we go in here, we're going to connect. And we're connecting and connecting and connecting. All right. You've seen that, so let's just go forward. Now, where's our app? Here it is. Click. What happens? Did it work? Nothing's happening. That's not a good, that's not very promising. I did save it. Let's try running it here without it doing that way. Yeah, it's not pretty. That's not pretty. All right, I figured it out. Turns out mouse release event doesn't work. Let's try mouse press event. And let's try it again. Let's go ahead and put that print statement. Let's get the we'll just run it in debug. You can see this happening. All right, there we go. And let's see what we see. Print path, there it is. We got the path. All right. So this is where it gets really cool. So now what we could do is we could put in here, let's see if this works. I'm going to try self.main avatar main display dot, oh, wait a minute. We're going to need to get a code equals, and then we're going to put controller dot get file contents path. And now we can do self.main avatar main display dot set HTML code. Let's see if this works. And I'm going to refresh. We get rid of that. Let's just see if this works. Uh-oh. Car map code. All right, we have a crash. Car map codec can't decode bytes. All right. So we're going to run it again. If it lets me run it again. Nope. So there's something with some of these images. All right, well, the error message is actually giving me some hints here. So let's try the Lorelei one, or we'll try the pixel art one more time. And it crashes. So we're looking at pixel art, and right here it says it's a Unicode decode error. I think this has to do with the way we're treating the character. I think it's using like ASCII and not UTF or something along those lines. Yeah, I think it's an encoding thing. So let's go to controller. Is it controller? Yeah, right here. Yep, we need, can we set encoding to UTF-8? Let's see if this works. If it's a Unicode error, that could be what's going on. I'm going to save my changes. I'm going to go back and try this out again. Yep, that was it. Got it. Got it. Had nothing to do with the other files. It all had to do with the encoding. Also the fact that, remember, we were doing things like getting the style sheets and other such stuff. I think it was just that SVG might have some characters that are not fully, well, it's the encoding. That's your answer. All right, I think we got it. I think all that remains is some API calls using the seeds and getting the avatar, and maybe, like, you know, we might have some other buttons. We'll save that for the next tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for more.